Hi there. My name is Hugh Hastings, and on behalf of the Seattle Artists Board of Directors, I want to welcome you to this Kenyon Hall special streaming event. COVID has been really hard on all performing arts organizations, but we are doing our best to keep the Kenyon Hall tradition alive by bringing you these concerts, which were performed and recorded right here at the Hall in COVID-safe conditions. Those of you who are longtime fans and friends of the Hall will no doubt be missing the presence of Lou Mager, the inimitable host, music director, and spiritual guide of Kenyon Hall since its beginning. Sadly, we lost Lou unexpectedly in April, but we dedicate these concerts to his memory and plan on keeping his spirit alive at the Hall on into the future. Please know that we are working towards reinstating live events at Kenyon Hall. But in the meantime, I invite you to make yourself a root beer float and enjoy this concert. Now, here's a little something about the show you're going to see. Tonight's concert features the Jerry Frank Trio. This group is composed of 3 world-class musicians who grew up here in Seattle. Pianist Jerry Frank, bassist Dan Dean, and drummer Tom Collier. And this performance is extra special because it commemorates their 50-year anniversary of performing together as a group. Tonight's program is free, but if you'd like to make a donation to the artists and Kenyon Hall, you're welcome to. We'd love to have your donation of any size. Just click on the link below in the video's description. As you know, artists and art venues have been hit hard by this pandemic, so your generosity is particularly appreciated. I just want to make a quick plug for some of our upcoming streaming events. Join us in 2 weeks for a concert with Tom Collier and Mark Seals, and 2 weeks after that, we'll be joined by Orville Johnson and Mark Graham. They're all fantastic performers, and we're really thrilled to have them all joining us here at the Hall. Thanks again for joining us here tonight. Now it's my pleasure to introduce the Jerry Frank Trio.
Good evening from Kenyon Hall in West Seattle. My name is Jerry Frank, and that's Tom Collier on the drums and Dan Dean on the bass. And this is a reunion concert for the 3 of us. We played in band 50 years ago, and tonight is a reunion concert, and we'll start with something that Beethoven would have probably been very embarrassed to hear. On the other hand, he was Beethoven. Well, you guys, it's been 50 years since we played together as a trio, but it kind of doesn't sound like that due to Tom and Dan. I mean, is the kind of thing that goes on among musicians who've known each other since childhood, kind of. You know each other's moves, and you can't get away with stuff because he knows what I'm thinking and vice versa.
Yeah.
And so we translate that to music, and if I play a wrong chord, Dan will look at me and he'll turn it into a good chord because he knows what next note to play and to make it. We cover each other up is basically what we
Well,
do.
about 3 minutes into our little rehearsal earlier.
Yeah, that's what happened.
All the moves came back.
Yeah. This is a tune that I wrote, and for no reason at all, the title is Follow the Tuna. Yeah, that's hot. Tom hasn't played the drums. Let me tell you, if you don't already know it, that Tom Collier is the world's best vibist, marimbist, percussionist, bar none. We're talking Gary Burton, everybody. He's the best. And so, musically speaking, you know, I take my advice from Tom, and he hasn't played the drums for 50 years. I mean, that's the
About
same
10
Rogers
years ago.
set I used to see over at your
This
house,
set is 59 years old.
59 years
Bought it in
old.
1962.
I'd go over to your place, and you'd have that drum, and we'd record multi-track music. What was the machine you had?
Oh, it was that Sears.
A Sears
yeah,
two-track.
Two-track, but you could overdub on
You
it.
could overdub. So we had so many overdubs and so much leakage, but it was just fun. And to learn how to record, now we've got all this equipment. Everybody's got a phone and they can be a recording studio in and of themselves. But back in the day,
Yeah, it was real tape.
it was real tape.
Yeah.
And we
And a razor
recorded
blade to cut
everything
out the
that we
mistakes.
wanted to hear just for fun. And it was a blast. I'd like to dedicate this song to the late, great Lou Magor, who was responsible for this facility, and in his honor, we'll play this song right now. when I met Tom, we were both students at the University of Washington together, okay? And we were in the same class, and we
Played in the stage band.
yeah, we played in the stage band. Tom was driving the Husky, not the Husky band, but the big stage band with Bill Cole. God rest him, a great director of the marching band and the stage band. And Tom was Buddy Rich up there, man. He was pushing that band, the trumpets, everybody. He was driving it, let me tell you. And I was new at this. I didn't know. I played like Liberace or somebody, but it was such an education to play with Tom because he would force you to be a good musician. And now we go to his snot-nosed neighbor who lived across the street from him,
That's me.
who was 15 years old at the time, Dan Dean. And Tom said, well, you know, I was using this bass player who was an engineering student at the U. He was a great, stand-up player.
Tom Rattan.
It was Tom Rattan, and he was a great guy, but we wore him out. I mean, I had so many casuals, so many gigs that his fingers were falling off, that callus you get when you do that.
Yeah.
Tom suggested that he's got this neighbor who's 15 years old, and, he's kind of a crazy guy. He builds radios with parts that you find in your garbage can. I said, oh, this is cool. And he's a really good bass player, Jer. He can really do it. This is a song that is as old as Tom and me and Dan. We played this 50 years ago. It's called Chromaticism. So we got together.
Recorded Black Orchid.
We recorded Black Orchid, which was a tune that I was going to play tonight. And this was a tune I'd written when I was 18 years old. And he came over to my house, and I had a Steinway there, and we set up the gear, you and Tom
Yeah.
and me, and we played this Black Orchid as part of a multi-track experiment using my Steinway.
Over at Kirkwood. Kirkwood.
It was Kirkwood Place
Avenue.
near Green Lake,
Yeah.
which is still there, still got water in it and stuff. But in West Seattle, Tom and Dan were neighbors. I mean, what are the chances in this world that you drop two of the best musicians who've ever lived within 100 yards of each other? I mean, that's the truth, in my humble opinion. And you can look it up. You can Google this, okay? They're that good, all right?
Well,
And
you know Jerry.
Yeah, right.
Jerry started taking piano lessons at the UW when he was 8 years old.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So he's a genius on the
Yeah,
piano.
right. I'm one of those guys who would look like he was going to be the best concert pianist and the most famous composer, and then I did something terrible. I discovered jazz, okay? I discovered improvisation. I discovered that you can make up music just by sitting down and wiggling your fingers, and that's the best way to go. How are we gonna do
I don't know. This is the one that we could have some issues
I don't
with.
come in until the second.
Yeah, you don't come until the, you know.
Maybe we should play a bit first.
I mean, Dan sent me yesterday a very nice video of an interview with Stravinsky, which I watched. And Stravinsky explained how Beethoven, because he couldn't hear, would use a pencil in his mouth and he would write the notes while he listened to the vibrations of the keyboard that he was playing. And he would write that music. And there's a fascinating way to look at it. And for Tom and Dan and me, we don't need a keyboard to write our music. I mean, it's in our heads. And when we sit down, it just comes out, right? I mean, I'm good enough on this keyboard, and Dan's a master at his, and Tom is a master at what he does. And so the pencils and the utilities we use are irrelevant now. We just sit down, and what happens, what falls out of our brains and our bodies is the result of knowing each other so well and experiencing all the music we've experienced.
And
You know,
it goes beyond technique. It goes to
oh,
having
way,
ears.
way beyond
Jerry
technique.
has great ears. Dan, he has unbelievable ears.
Oh, unbelievable.
And
You
my
can,
ears, they're here.
yeah. I mean, the idea that you can tell what pitch a truck is turning the corner on is irrelevant.
But we're listening to each other.
But we're listening. That's it. And that's so many musicians, you know, are going like this. And they're like, I'm not criticizing others, but you see it and you can hear it, right? There's something about a group that when we get together and we put our heads together, we can make improvised music which can never be repeated. And that's that's the value of having recording machines and devices to record and preserve all this stuff. But
Well, the audience gets a one-time performance just
yes,
for them.
that's right. You're absolutely right, Tom.
Yeah, it's pretty
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, right. To be a part of it. That's the joy. I mean, it was so much fun to play this music here tonight. I was listening to Dan and I was listening to Tom and I was going, oh, this is so cool. What am I doing here? I'm just filling the spaces. And it was a wonderful experience. And it was like that every night we played. We made music. Either sometimes we were sick, we had homework to do, you know, we didn't quite eat what we wanted to that day, but we played at night and it was a blast. We've been doing it all our lives. And Tom is internationally famous. Dan is going to be as soon as his CDs get out there and people start listening to them. And I'm serious. They're worthy of Grammy Awards, and he's working on another one right now. Anyway, it was a joy to be here tonight and play with these wonderful musicians in this great place and having this opportunity.
It's just too bad that Lou Mager wasn't here to hear this.
And it's too bad that he wasn't, because he didn't last long enough for this July concert. But in his honor, we played a couple of songs for him, and it's great to be at Kenyon Hall. And as the wonderful engineers who've been recording us said, they want to make this place a place where you can come in West Seattle and make your music and to lay down tracks just the way you want them, and they'll make them sound right. So thank you all. Have a good evening.